And oh, 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 and we're on. What's happening, everybody? Let me do a little bill adjustment right there. Got a little Kubrick in the background today, and in memory of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. Yes, the voice of the century. It's always interesting to wear a shirt like this in Texas. Every now and then I get a kind of a look. Is that there a Muslim? Honey, we might have a Muslim. We might have one of them Muslims living in town. Trust me, there are lots of Muslims in Texas. Uh, I am not one of them. Although Nusrat was one of the greats and one of the great concerts that I've ever attended. If you are into that kind of music, he was the man. Kowali, call and response. There is a guy. So to give you an example, as people start to show up here, uh, to give you an example of what it was like to be at a Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan concert, there was a small riser on the stage, and on that riser, of course, everybody was sitting down and performing. So whether it was doumbeks or tamboras or whatever instruments they were using, they were all sitting down, right? And Nusrat is sitting and singing, and there was one guy in the group. They're all men. One guy in the group who would do the call and response with him, right? And the rest of the group would also sing, but they would sing in sort of this repeating sort of da 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 da, that sort of a thing. Yun da 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 da. So you had Nusrat and then the young guys. So they would kind of go, back and forth, right? And then there was this one guy on the riser who didn't play an instrument and he didn't sing. His only job was to make change. That's what his job was. So if you wanted to request a song for Nusrat to sing, you would walk up to the guy and you would hand him like $100 bill or a $50 bill or whatever, right? If you want to change back, and eventually, he'd write down on a piece of paper or whatever, and maybe at a certain point during the concert, it would get handed over to Nusrat and he'd sing it. It's called "Pay to Play," right? It was fascinating just to have one guy on stage, basically just gave change. That's all he did. He gave change. And then at the end of the concert, like things got really wild at the end of the concert. And I don't think that they expected this is at the Oakland Civic Auditorium. And at the end of the concert, all these people ran onto the stage and just started throwing bills everywhere and dancing like crazy. And I think even the guys on the stage were kind of shocked, right? They're like, "Hey, we're not really used to, we're really used to all this." And I'm just watching this. I'm going, "Man, this guy's got a good gig." But he was great, right? He's a great voice, so of course I think he deserved every single dollar he got. And that was kind of a who's who show in the area, where like Don Cherry was there that night, walking through the crowd. And Don Cherry was unmistakable. He looked like a wraith. Oh, there's Don Cherry. He's here for Nusrat. Anyway, just kind of opening up the doors here. And I want to thank everybody for being here. So before we start to get out the scalpel on last night's event, many of you might already know that Thomas Massie's wife has passed away. And I can't even imagine how he feels. I was talking with Tom earlier, and I said, Thomas Massie and his wife have experienced a love that very few people experience. I'll never experience it, and it has to just do with the fact of my age, right? They fell in love when they were in high school, and they went from high school to college together. They built a business together. They built a home together. They built a family together, and very few people in life get to experience that. And the upside of that kind of relationship, I think, is supreme joy, supreme joy, and supreme love. And of course, there's always things that couples have to work out, whatever, right? But I believe that the Massies are Christians as well. And for Thomas Massie, I know for a fact that his love for his wife was not indistinct for his love for God, and vice versa. Right there, it all um, it all amplifies and becomes bigger and greater. Right. It's in the sacred feedback loop, and I just want to just send out my condolences to this man, and I know many of you do as well, because he has quickly won over the hearts and minds of many due to his appearance on Tucker, and also the Off the Grid with Thomas Massie. It's about a 35-minute documentary, maybe 40-minute documentary. And when you see the life that the man has lived, and see the things that he stands for, uh, how can you not just have immediate admiration and respect for this guy, right? Like, you know, sometimes you'll run into a political figure that, or somebody in life that you'll like. Excuse me. And they'll have a lot of really great attributes, but maybe there's one or two things that you kind of have to give them a pass on, right? Or you have to sort of um, justify perhaps the imperfection or the thing in the past. Thomas Massie had none of that, right? He had none of that. There was nothing in his past that the man ever had to dodge or be ashamed of. So nobody ever had to justify something that he had done, perhaps. And I'm sure he made mistakes. We all make mistakes. Um, but it's not there, right? It's not there. You don't well, yeah, yeah. He did say I grabbed that pussy, right? You just there's none of that in Massey's background. So if it's not in his background, it's clearly and over time, as we've got to know him more publicly, it's not in his foreground either. So when all of that is added up, it just makes it easy to say, yeah, hands down, respect, right? I respect. I've never met that guy, but I respect the hell out of him. I respect that man a lot, and and I can only imagine what he's feeling today. And I have nobody has any details around any of this except for the fact that she's passed away. And the only bit of information that I have, like most of you, is that they were traveling in Washington State a week ago, and they were kind of touring around Mount Rainier. So they were probably staying in cabins and hiking and doing kind of regular things, right? I don't know if she had a pre-existing condition. I don't know if she started with cancer. I don't know anything. All I know is that out of the blue, She's gone. Um, of course, I've had a couple conversations this morning with people, and you know, the conversation quickly turns to foul play. Like, here's a guy that is not going along with the program. Here's a guy that is questioning how things are done in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you saw his manifesto that he put out the other day, but it was significant. And it talked about ending the Federal Reserve and a number of other things that clearly should be part of like if Trump was a serious candidate, he would adopt those principles, those mandates that Massie was talking about. Right. So those are important, right? When you start talking about ending the Federal Reserve, you are getting the attention of bankers. Prior to that, he has been, you know, kind of going after APAC. He was a guy that was a thorn in APAC and Israel side because he didn't want to spend the money. Right? He did not want to give them the money. He didn't want to give the Ukrainians the money. Now, I don't think Thomas Massie made it personal. Although I'm sure if you question him about the conflict in Palestine and Gaza, and and I'm sure he had uh, access to footage of children, babies being killed, mutilated, right? Like the Christian in him would not approve of that. He would not approve of it. But he had been to Israel on his own, no press junket, and he clearly said on Tucker's show that he has no hate in his heart for any of the Israeli people, right? And I believe him. But when you go up against powerful forces like that, you go up against APAC and the Israeli lobby, and you have a strong character and a very strong and devoted voter base, you are in the crosshairs. You're in the crosshairs. So the last election, which he just won, APAC spent an obscene amount of money to back his opponent and defeated soundly. Right? They could throw all the money in the world at somebody to take on Thomas Massie. It's not going to work. Right? The people who elected him county commissioner are the same people that elected him representative, and they're his people, right? You're not going to move them. You're just not going to move them. So and he has an impeccable past. He is based on what I know about him, he has an impeccable past. So he is uncompromisable. So how do you get to a person who has an impeccable past and is uncompromisable? Well, you do it indirectly. And you would target probably the thing that he cherishes the most, which is likely his wife. Now, I know that, we like to, I mean, unfortunately, this is, the go to, right? This is the go to now. And maybe she's been battling cancer and we just don't know about it. And that can be true, right? Maybe that's what's been going on. And they went out to Mount Rainier to kind of have the, kind of a final family get together. And she just succumbed to a long bout of cancer. I don't know. Like, there's no details, and maybe that's the case, right? In which um, it happens. Right? There's a high degree of cancer in our society, so it's not out of the question. Now, if it is a sudden and mysterious death, well, that's a whole other question, right? That brings up a whole other series of uh, potentialities. But before I go down that road, or even broach what those things could be, I want to just send that man some condolences, because I'm rarely like this with politicians. I really can't stand politicians, and I'm sure he wakes up every day, just wishing that he could just be at his farm and not have to go to Washington D.C. And I know that that's true, and so I'm sure he has his own contempt for politicians. He's there every day. Um, so it's very rare when I really adopt somebody and sing their praises. But Thomas Massey is a good man, and uh, not only is he a good man, he's a brave man. He's a really smart man, and I just hope that he's able to get through this and you know pick up the pieces of his heart, um, and whatever he chooses to do is whatever he chooses to do, right? Like he's there for another 2 years in Congress. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, it all depends on the circumstances of her health and passing. If she had a long-term condition, it is what it is, right? It is what it is, and he would have known about it and prepared for it, and so would she and the rest of the family. But if it's something that just quickly happened, that's a whole other kettle of fish. And I know that I don't view him as a person, who would be grudge based or vendetta based. But if it was something like that, if it was something fairly exotic or unexplainable or strange, my sense is that you're going to see another side of Thomas Massey that you haven't seen yet. That's my sense. Um, but that's a conversation that we can't even have because we don't know. And I just wish him and his family and I know, there's a lot of outpouring and support going to him, and count me in. Just count me in. I'm a fan, and I think he's a very important part of our story right now. I've talked about this. I've touched on this slightly, just a little bit, right? We talk about these generations on the show. We talk about the silent generation and the baby boomers in our little Generation Jones group, in Gen X, in the millennials, and Gen Z, et cetera, et cetera. Thomas Massey is a millennial, is a Gen X. He's Gen X, and I've been thinking, right. It's like, okay, when is Gen X going to step into the breach of the leadership positions? And this is their time right now. I think Massey is mid 50s, right? He's in his mid 50s, and that's usually the time where astrologically you're past your Chiron return. You've gotten through that Neptune Pluto opposition. Let me just look at Massey's chart here for just a second. I think I got rid of it. Hold on. Um, let's see. So he's born in 71, and let's see. Pluto. Uh, yeah, he's got Pluto. Here, let me show this to you guys. And again, this is not based on his birth time. I did that show, and I kind of rectified his chart a little bit. But let me just show you this to you here. So here's his Pluto at 29 Virgo. What's on the other side? Neptune at 29 Pisces. So he is going through the Neptune Pluto opposition. Do you remember how I have talked about this opposition, which happens around 53, 54? Right? You guys have heard me talk about this, right? And when you have the Neptune Pluto opposition, you have to let go of something very important to you. Very important to you. And the whole idea with the Neptune Pluto opposition is that it's a dress rehearsal for your end game. That's what it's about. Because at the same time, and this happens with everybody's chart, is that transiting Neptune, which is over here, is trining his natal Neptune. So the idea, right, is you have this intense tension, point of tension between Neptune and Pluto, right? And then at some point, and Pluto is the grounding cord to life, right? Pluto is the silver cord that connects us to this existence. And so when you get that Neptune Pluto opposition, you have to let go. And then the whole idea is that the Neptune trine shows you the beauty of letting go, like the grace of letting go, the grace of surrender. It's like, okay, here you go, let go, move along this path, and your higher self, God, destiny, and love will lead you to where you need to be, right? But you have to let go. And this is it. This is it. This is the demonstration of the Neptune Pluto opposition. So no matter what happened to his wife, under whatever condition or whatever kind of circumstances she passed in, astrologically, this is where he's at. Right, this is where he's at, and I don't mean to trivialize his experience. I'm trying not to trivialize this. Oh, it's just his chart. No, I'm just sharing this aspect in action. And so we've talked about this before, and there are people who have said, "Oh my God, I remember that time in my life. That's when my father died, or it's when I lost my job, or fill in the blank." Right. Now he's got that Mars and Scorpio, and it's a sextile with Pluto. So this is not he's not a quitter. This is not a quitter. He can, Thomas Massie can hang in there, right? He's got a fascinating chart over here with all this Scorpio and Sagittarius going on. Really, really interesting stuff. Also, Neptune is squaring his Pluto. His Mercury as well. That's interesting, right? Neptune Mercury square. He's got that Mercury in Sag. It's kind of like, okay, you got to tell the truth. You got to be a voice for the truth. You got to speak the truth. And it's in square with Pluto. And here comes Neptune, T square. I think he'll have questions. I think we'll have plenty of questions about what's happened, even if it is a, I don't know, for lack of a better term, organic passing. Anyway, we wish him all the very best, and we know that he's in good care with his family and all the people that support him, uh, and hang in there, Tom. Hang in there. Stay with us, right? Just stay with us, and you know, keep being a shining light and an example unto the rest of us of self-sufficiency, responsibility, accountability, and commitment. All right. It's just shocking news. No matter how you spin it, it's just shocking news. It almost feels trivial in some ways to just talk about what happened last night, but a lot of people want to kind of go over the remains of dead, and I guess I'm happy to do that. Let's see, who do we have here? My man DJ MC, Happy Heart Rose. I'm sorry, Healing Heart Rosie. You'll be listening. Glemma Spank, you got to be the first to like. Let her not be the last one. Hit the like button. Hit the like button and subscribe. CC Jones, fantastic. Spectacle. That's one way of putting it. Jesus, more like a spooktacle. Holy moly, right here. That debate last night, it was terrible. Well, okay, we'll get into it. I'm thinking these are the two best options America for. Yeah, that's the other part of it, right? It's like we sit around and we just look at each other and go, "This, what the fuck? Like this is it. This is what the uniparty has you know baked for the rest of us." Anyway, we'll get into more of that. Let's see. Hello, Susie G. Good to see you. Can hardly wait to hear about the post-mortem. Yeah. Lisa Ann White's here. Yeah, we're getting some feedback in chat around Massie. Divine Guidance by Lisa Marie. Hi, Lisa Marie. Athena. Hi, Athena. Cool shirt. I love my Nusrat shirt. Mary Lee's here. Hi, Mary Lee. Brandy Herrera. Get ready. It seems like it's storming in New Orleans all the time. Beth Berry sighting. What's up, Double B? Neo the Wise checking in. Maya Rose, Harriet Bowie. Hey. No cause of death. That's right. No. Yeah, hit the like. Thank you, Joe. The roundabout at the county fair was as close as I'll get to feeling of going down the drain until last night. Yeah. I mean, even if you are an ardent Trump supporter and you're the don't care voting Trump person, you have to have some degree of critical appraisal of like his side of things last night. I'll get into more of that. Great. Thank you, Paula. Lots of celebrating today. Biden is done and refuses to admit it. Enjoying the show. Let's see. Landnam Warrior. Landnam Warriors are, hey, what's up, Landnam? Arlene Vega, Ryan. Curtis Moonflower, I can't stop smiling. Airplane window seat. Thor at the door. What's happening, Steve? It's the soupy class of music. The repeating patterns take one into a trance-like state. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yeah, I was really into that sound. On the female side, on the male side, you have what's known as Kawalis, right? Kawali, the Kawali style of singing. Qawali. And it is a call and response. And these are basically call and response love poems to God, right? On the female side, you have ghazals, Ghazals, and ghazals are almost exclusively sung by females. So those are the two main uh, modalities in. It doesn't have to be Sufic music, but in Muslim music, right? The ghazal and the qawwali. Yes, you can become a member of Locals. I was trying to get on there last night and post some stuff, but it was down, and so was Rumble. So we'll do some of that today. It is. The week always goes by, Joe, quickly. Christopher Royce, what's happening? Let's see. Who else do we have here? You know what? I'm throwing that up there for Lynn, who lost her husband in a tragic helicopter accident over the Pacific Ocean while filming. I guess it was an opening sequence for Magnum PI. And there's actually a short documentary that covers the story. So, yes, Lynn, absolutely, you know how he feels. Thomas Massie is a powerful guardian angel now. I like that. I like that. I like that, Curtis. He's got some muscle on the other side. I like that. Tondar asked the baby. I asked the baby, said she is good, and started singing. She rediscovered her hamster toy under the bed. Good times. Finding that hamster toy, very important. I think Massey's children are college age and older. Tom put up the link to Off the Grid. If you haven't seen it, grab it. I highly recommend it. Massey should be VP. I don't. If Trump was smart, he would make him VP. But Trump is up to his feetrum with Israel in APAC, and they will not let Trump have Thomas Massie be second in command. Basically, that would never happen. Never in a million years. Never, unless Trump was a keep your friends close and enemies closer kind of guy. But I like the idea. It's not going to happen. Let's see. Who else we have here? Now, this I agree with. That I agree with wholeheartedly. He doesn't want it, though. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. You know, after what they did to JFK, you can believe whatever you want with JFK. I think they killed him. Nixon, what they did to Nixon. Hell, what they did to Trump for 4 years. Who wants that? Who wants that level of abuse? The only way you could be a successful president in this country is if you were either a dictator or you had the most powerful combination of super high intelligence, the understanding of the legal system, be a master of rhetoric and history, right? Have the ability to, at times, be a shark in shark-infested waters, and then also be able to inspire and devote people, right? Like who gets close to that? Not many people, right? So you have to have all those qualities, which would be so overwhelming, right, that you could meet almost any challenge that they threw at you, or you'd have to be a dictator in order to get through and survive 4 years. Look what they did to Trump for 4 years. living hell. Let's see. Yeah, this is again. I'm gonna put this commented up. Nathan Kenyon Patillo. This is exactly what I was talking about. The only real one in DC they don't have a control file on. That's exactly what I was talking about. There's nothing in that man's past that is even remotely suspicious, and makes him vulnerable. Nothing. And all he's done since he's been in Washington is do the right thing. No scandals, nothing whatsoever. Absolutely 100% right. Let's see. Maybe it is to derail him. Well, that would make the most sense, right? You're not going to get rid of a Capricorn very easily. I mean, even Nixon hung in there to the bitter end, right? He's a Capricorn. You know what happened to Nixon? Nixon actually won the 1960 election, by the way. And the Kennedys and Frank Sinatra and the mob basically stole enough votes. I believe it was in Chicago, Illinois. Illinois, I know Chicago, Illinois specifically, mostly Chicago or the other ones. And it was incredibly close election, and that's how they won, right? So what did Nixon do? Did Nixon just pack it in and say, fuck it, DC's corrupt, Kennedys are corrupt, I got beat by a machine? No. He came back. In 1968, he came back and he won, right? And he won again in 72. And he tried to stay there for as long as he could, but he couldn't because he had no support. And he was completely railroaded. But that's what Capricorns do. They don't quit, right? And even after Nixon he was no longer president, he was writing books, he was speaking. There's like a 35-hour segment, 35-hour long segment of interviews with him on YouTube, which I highly recommend. It's his life story from beginning to end, right, or at least the end at that time. It's the nature of Capricorn, so I don't see him tapping out. I don't see him tapping out. How this affects him and his psyche and his spirit, that's a whole other story. We'll find out. Ending the Fed is a big deal. It was the reason Lincoln was assassinated when he refused to allow a central bank. So what he said he wanted to end the Fed. There you go, cuz. Thank you. This is what Tom. That's what I was talking about. This just happened this last week. He introduced bills to abolish the Federal Reserve, terminate the Department of Education, end the federal ban of raw milk, and stop COVID vax mandates, and quit taxing tips, prohibit the funding of censorship. Wow. I mean, there's so much in there, right? Like you've got the pharmaceutical industry, you've got big agra, you've got the Department of Education, you've got the Federal Reserve and the bankers, and then of course prohibit the funding of censorship. Well, you know who he's talking about there. So they all probably got together in a dark room, and said, "Okay, this has got to stop." Reminds me of Ivana Trump a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Rand Paul kind of disappeared, didn't he? He sort of just kind of faded into the background. Um, Jackie Delario is here. Maybe another jab casualty. That is not going to happen in the Massie household. That's not going to go down. Jab free. Let's see what else we have here. Let's see. What else we have? Only the good die young. I don't know. James Dean was kind of a twerpy little asshole. He died young. Let's see. Who else we have here? Good to see you, Rich. They went to the prom together. They were high school sweethearts. Steve says she looks fine to me. She looked pretty good. Looked pretty good. Jay Schaefer checking in. What's up, Jay? There you go. Here's Lynn's story. My husband and I met at 14. Spent 20 years together. He and Massie are cut from the same cloth. I couldn't believe how alike they are. Jay lost one of her best friends a week ago today. Wostrom made some calls to HQ. Yeah, I think we're all very curious about the cause of death. So let's see what happens here. But we just can't help but not be suspicious, right? Like, can't we have nice things? That's really what it comes down to. Can we have nice things? And can't we have a fucking win every now and then? Look, if something happened to that woman and it is foul play, I guarantee you it will backfire on those people. And it may not happen directly, or it may not happen within a time frame where you're going to be able to connect the dots, but it'll backfire on those people if there is foul play involved. That's where we are. I'm sorry, Jay. Oh boy. Glemma lost her son at 53. Hardest thing I've ever faced in life. At age 53. There you go. Here's your Neptune Pluto opposition. That Mercury's conjunct the galactic center by about 3 degrees. Right, 3 degrees. I think GC's at 26. But yes, why conjunction? Yeah, Massie got the renewable energy stuff right? Like, he got it right. It's like, put the cells on the roofs. Put the cells on the roofs and let people be able to soak up the energy, and you don't even have to put it back into the grid. Right? He got it right. Totally right. Let's see. Well, Leanne G, come on in when you're ready. LMM's in the house. What's going on, Leanne? Melissa Stanton is here too. Jack Strom. What's going on, brother? I want to see a debate between Mike Johnson and Trump. Oh my God. Oh. I just think Mike Johnson would just agree with everything he said. I don't think there'd be much of a debate. Debate or psyop. All right. Why don't we talk about the debate? Okay, because there's a lot. First of all, Biden. Here, let me throw this up here. Apparently, Biden has now committed to the second debate. And this is from Twitter, if you haven't seen this. New is just reported on CNN at CNN. Not only does POTUS not plan to drop out, Biden remains committed to a second debate in September, an advisor tells me. Okay. So here's what I think, I've been saying this for a while. Here's what I think is going to go down. They are not going to replace Joe Biden. You'll hear the hue and cry. They're not going to, even though they took him out there last night and basically said, we are going to execute you in front of the American people. That's what that was about. Because they knew that whoever that version of him is, right, whatever, maybe that's the real one that they trot out every now and then, right? They knew that guy was not capable of being even remotely cognitive for the entirety of that debate, let alone the first 10 minutes. They knew that, right? They knew that. And even with all of the tight controls and the rules of engagement and no audience and the mic going off at 2, right, to make it so that it would be like tight, right? Like there'd be these tight parameters that both dudes would have to be in. And even with all that, right, they couldn't help him. Now, there was a change in Biden after the first break. And people were talking about this on chat last night, that his eyes looked different, that they went from blue to black. So I think that, and he seemed to be a little more with it in the second part of the debate. But so I think they hit him. They juiced him. They juiced him with something, right? It's like, here you go. Oh, okay. And he went back out there and kind of looked more composed a bit. So you have to wonder, right? Like really what's going on inside the Democratic Party and inside the sort of the Biden world, right? Like if you've been following uh, Biden and Harris since he got into office, I guess around year 2, there started to be rumors of a lot of conflict coming from the Harris side, right? And the Harris side basically saying that they wanted her to be president and that they wanted Biden to step down. It's about 2 years ago. And Biden was very close, politically close to this guy named Ron Klain, Clain. And Ron Klain was a major player in the Democratic Party. Huge fundraiser, right? He's like, the power behind the power. So Klain was Obama's chief of staff. So he was there to basically run cover for Biden. He was Biden's chief of staff. He was there to run cover for Biden, right? He was there to take the bullets for Biden. And eventually, I don't know whether it was Obama or whoever, maybe somebody in the DNC fundraisers group, who knows, Klain resigns. Right. So you inside the Biden circus, you have Jill Biden and you had Ron Klain. And I don't know who else is Biden loyal inside of the Biden White House. And then you have Kamala, and then, of course, on the Kamala side, you'll get Obama and Val Jarrett and that crew, right? So there's been this division inside of the White House for a while now. And I think it's at this point, the person who is probably, keeping him unfairly in the race is Joe Biden. That's what I think. And I think Jill's based, they'll go to Jill and they'll say, hey, we got to do this, we got to do this. And she'll say no. Right. But the weird thing about Jill Biden, this is the part that blows my mind, right? Like, why is she doing this? I mean, does she just like to, wear the White House drapes, when she goes out, right? Is she just so into being the fucking first lady? Does she love Joe so much that she just can't think of him not being president? I mean, what goes on between the ears of that woman, right? Like, is she just a fame whore? And how much power does she must have some power. I think she has more power than people give her credit for in terms of handling Joe. Right. So I think that the Democratic Party did everything that they could, everything in their power to basically ritually sacrifice him last night. That's what that was. That was a political hit, ritual sacrifice right in front of us. Stunning. The first part of the debate was like, you couldn't make that shit up. If you took that chunk of the debate, and let's say you were able to take that back to 1970 and tell people this is what a presidential debate's going to look like in 2024. Oh, and the guy who is incoherent, too old, and makes no sense, that's the president. Like, how do you think somebody from 1970 would view that? Like, it would be almost beyond they'd have to say, you're kidding me, right? Is this a comedy? Is this some kind of weird French surrealistic movie, right? It would just make absolutely zero sense. I mean, it was shocking. It was stunning how just feeble he was. It wasn't just the things he was saying. It was the looks. It was he'd get these looks. And then he'd look down. Like maybe he's trying to read his prompters. The looks alone were enough to say, please go home, go to bed. Right? I mean, it was just, I've never seen anything like it. It was a hit. It was a hit. And everybody on CNN and everybody on the Democratic side of things, we're just like, we got to replace him. 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 Dude, he needed to be replaced 4 years ago. He should never have been elected. He should never have been elected in the first place. What's ironic is that they wanted to what is this, the 28th Amendment or whatever, the one where you can remove a president, standing president, if they're incapable of cognitively functioning, right? Isn't it the 28th Amendment or something like that? Where they kept bringing, or the 25th, one of the two. They kept bringing it up with Trump. Oh, he's insane. He's mad. If you're going to use that, use it on Biden, because he's clearly not capable of doing the job, right? Clearly. And it's just, and they knew it. They knew it. And they knew that Trump was just like a shark. He was just like a shark in the water, right? Just waiting for the chum, right? And that was Biden. Biden was the chum. He was the chum. Now, Trump's got his own thing on this, which I want to touch on. But that was about as deliberate of a political assassination that I've ever seen in public, right? That's almost the equivalent of somebody actually shooting him and taking him out. Doesn't look like it's working too well. Doesn't like it's working too well at all. So the flip side, right? Okay, so we'll play alternative universe, um, QAnon flip side. All right, let's play that game for a second. Let's try that. Let's try that out on. All right, so let's say that Biden is an actor. Right? People were saying, well, last night he said that. Oh, that's James Woods. I've said that in the past that Jim Carrey has played Biden. So I don't think that these things are out of the question, right? But if you wanted to do that, right, if that was actually true, then you would have that person play that role in that way and watch that party implode from the inside out, right? Like that is like if that was part of the Q script, you could see, oh, look at that. These motherfuckers are losing their minds. See, this is all intentional. This is to show people how incompetent and how cruel and how bad that party is. I'm sure that there are a number of people who could run that script out and might not sound all that obscure, right? Like, maybe. Where's that Q drop? Because that's what's happening. Right? We're watching the Democratic Party completely implode. I mean, that's the other side of this whole thing. I mean, it's the Spider-Man meme, right? It's the Spider-Man meme. They're pointing their webs at each other. They're going after each other. I mean, we watched CNN briefly last night. It looked like somebody fucking died. I mean, they were apoplectic. And so part of me, as I watch it, part of me is like, well, good. And I'm not, I don't know. I think it's basically a uniparty. Even though you'll have some individuals like Thomas Massie every now and then who are under the affiliation of one side or the other. And, maybe they have a very different relationship to the thing that they do. And there are very few of them. Right. But if that's the case, I have no problem watching the Democratic Party implode. Just as I wouldn't have any problem watching these fake ass Republicans implode either. I'd love to see them both implode because neither of them really give two shits about us. But because, look, I'll say this about Trump. You have a president with no experience whatsoever, a group of people who were basically given to him or told to be part of his staff that were all political paybacks. You had an entire leave behind of the Obama administration doing all the clerical shit, right, which was just incredibly stupid. Whatever. So Trump had an incredible amount of impediments. And even with all of those impediments, he actually managed to do a few things. Right? Like he did manage to slow migration down. Right? He did a few things legally that made it much more difficult once you got inside the country. Right? I also think he was doing something with Obrador of Mexico. He had something going on with Obrador, and I don't know if it was a tariff thing. I don't know I don't know what the side deal was, but Obrador was not as welcoming with a lot of the migrants coming from the south. And I think he did build some wall. He didn't build all the wall, which is almost nearly impossible, by the way. But he did stem the tide on immigration, right? He stemmed it. He didn't solve it completely, but he stemmed it. And once Biden got in, that all went away, right? He removed the stuff that Trump had done. Boom, right? So now we have all these people in the country, and some of them are good people. And I had a client yesterday. He hired 3 Ecuadorian guys. He says they're the hardest working dudes he's ever run across, and couldn't do his business without them. Right. So I am not here to condemn everybody that's crossed the border, but there are a lot of other people who are not like that, and they're not here to add anything. And in fact, a lot of them are quite dangerous. So we have Biden and the Democratic Party to blame for that. So when I see them implode around this and have all this infighting, good, good, good. Devour yourselves. Because this is the one thing that the Democratic Party has always had over the Republican Party, is that they have always been in lockstep. Always. Bernie Sanders whooping Hillary's ass, gets Nevada, wins the convention there, or the vote in Nevada, and then all the delegates are given to Hillary. It was on video. It was on video. I remember watching them, stunned. Just stunned. Like, what? They just made a decision. Well, even though Bernie won, we think it's in the best interest that Hillary get the delegates. So why even have your fucking primaries? Right? Why not just announce that this is the person that you really want and be done with it? So did Bernie Sanders say anything? No. He never once brought up that he was pissed that he was stiff. Well, there's reasons. Number one, Democrats don't do that. They don't split ranks. They all fall in the party line. In that regard, they're a lot like the Soviets, actually. Plus, Bernie made a lot of fucking money. Like, all that campaign money, both times, what was unused, he gets to keep. And I think he has at least 3 houses now, right? Bernie Sanders is doing just fine. But that's the Democratic Party mindset. You rarely see one of them step out and criticize the party or another party member. Now they're starting to come after each other. And I find that interesting. It's like, good. Let's see how you guys deal with a divided house. And I'd have to say, to some extent, that Trump has something to do with that. And that's because that's what Trump does, right? Trump is a cosmic shit disturber. And he's got the Uranus Sun conjunction in Gemini conjunct his true node, and that's what he does. He is a cosmic shit disturber. Trump is a disruptor. And that's what we're seeing in the Democratic Party. And is Trump the direct cause of that? No, but he is the indirect cause of that. I can guarantee you that. So he has something to do with it indirectly. Why? Because, well, Joe beat him last time. Well, you can beat him again. There's so much antipathy towards Trump, but all we got to do is run the same playbook out, have the same people count the votes. Oh, we got a lot more party members now, since we made the borders a lot more porous. We got this. No problem. No problem. Are you good? Yeah, I'm good. Are you good? Yeah, I'm good. Are you good? Yeah, I'm good. And then there's last night. And now they're not good. Now they're not good with it. Good. Good. I want to see them. I want to see them like be like monkeys at the zoo throwing shit at each other. Right? That's to me that I would find that entertaining because everybody's going to be loyal or faithful to somebody inside the well. Oh, let's bring Bernie back. Let's bring Hillary back. Let's bring Michelle in. So you'll have all these factions who will, um, you know, want to bring their person in, right? And that in and of itself is divisive. Good, right? This is like Pluto and Aquarius shit. Aquarius is groups. What's the Democratic National Committee, right? What's the DNC? It's a group. And this is what happens, right? So Pluto is a destroyer, right? And if a group is weak or a group is corrupt or whatever, right? There's no that's what I'm looking for. There's no favoritism here with Pluto. It'll do the same thing with the Republicans, right? It'll do the exact same thing with the Republicans. I firmly believe this, right? All of these groups or NGOs or organizations, right, that have been living so high on the hog in public dollars and the public trough, right? Pluto and Capricorn, the amalgamation of all that power and the consecration of the corporatocracy, which is what we got. And the walls are tumbling down now. They're tumbling down. So these groups who have wielded such great power, I think they're in trouble. I think they're in big trouble. So good. Let's see it happen. And I hope it happens on the Republican side too. I hope the Republicans, have their own moment where they're being exposed as well, and maybe just maybe we get enough exposure on one side, and it's kind of like all of a sudden the they live glasses come on. You're like, oh shit, look at that, look at that. You see what's going on over here? I never noticed that before. Holy shit, right? So now we're in this they live moment because it's being revealed. And if I'm telling you, if anything is fishy around the passing of Thomas Massie's wife, there will be holy hell to pay. Holy hell to pay. So I think that's another part of what happened last night, right? They brought him out. It was a political hit. It's like let's take him out there. Let's show him how bad he is. Let's get the attention of everybody in the party once and for all, so we can make a change. But the change is not as easy as you think. And I'm going to tell you why. I think it maybe, what is this, 3 minutes and 20 seconds? All right, do I have some text here? All right, good. Let me bring this up. They have a difficult time. They're going to have a difficult time replacing them. So here we go. President Joe Biden's performance in the first debate Thursday has sparked a new round of criticism from Democrats as well as public and private musing about whether he should remain at the top of the ticket. He shouldn't be in that fucking White House, period, end of story, but that's a different subject. In the modern era, a national party has never tried to adversarially replace its nominee, in part because knows who the fuck writes this shit? It's terrible. So in part because they know it would most likely fail because knows it. I guess it makes because knows it. Okay, all right. This does sound awkward. The issue came before both parties in 2016, but neither took action. Party rules make it almost impossible to replace nominees without their consent, let alone smoothly replace them with someone else. And doing so would amount to party insiders overturning the results of primaries when Democratic voters overwhelmingly Democrats voted overwhelmingly to nominate Biden. The results of primaries when Democratic voters overwhelmingly. It still sounds weird. He won almost 99% of the delegates. At the moment, there's no known serious effort to push him off the top of the ticket. Still, the Democratic National Committee's charter does make some provisions in case the party's nominee is incapacitated or opts to step aside. That's it. That's the only way that they can replace him. So he's got to be incapacitated, which means that he's got to be worse than yesterday, if you can wrap your head around it, or opts to step aside. Now, he said he would step aside for Kamala if he had some sort of a disease. That's on the record. I can play that video. I haven't queued up. But Dr. Jill, you got to convince Dr. Jill. But anyway, I have more thoughts about this. Let's keep going through this. And an anti-Biden coup at the convention is theoretically possible, if highly unlikely. So how would it work? What happens if Biden drops out before the convention? The only plausible scenario for Democrats to get a new nominee would be for Biden to decide to withdraw, which he has sworn off repeatedly during other bumpy stretches of his campaign. He's already agreed to the second debate. He could do so while serving out the rest of his term in the White House, as Lyndon Johnson did in 1968. If Biden, he was lame duck. That's so fucked up, right? Lyndon Johnson serves out his term, and you got the Vietnam War going on, and he's got all these decisions that he can make, and there's going to be like no culpability or any kind of accountability for those decisions. He can just leave. If Biden were to drop out before he's scheduled to be formally nominated in August, it would create a free-for-all among Democrats because there's no mechanism for him or anyone else to anoint a chosen successor. It takes a majority of the roughly 4,000 pledged delegates to win the party's nomination. Biden's won 3,900 of them. That tells you a lot about the party, right? They just have this Borg-like mind, right? They're just Borg. That's all they are. They're Borg. And the Republicans are just slightly a better version of the Borg. They're like Borg with less taxes. Under recent reforms, the party's more than 700 super delegates. Oh, those are important. Democratic lawmakers and dignitaries are allowed to vote only if no one wins a majority of pledged delegates on the first ballot. So their votes could be crucial in a contested convention. Because Biden's opponents all won effectively no delegates throughout the Democratic nominating process, there would be a virtual clean slate heading into the convention, and the decision would most likely come down to the convention delegates who were initially pledged to Biden. Biden would have some influence over his pledged delegates, but ultimately they can vote as they please. So candidates would most likely campaign aggressively to win over each individual delegate. However, there's a potentially important wrinkle. Democrats plan to formally nominate Biden virtually ahead of the late August convention to sidestep any potential concerns about ballot access in Ohio, where a technical quirk has complicated things. Democrats decided to plan a virtual nomination for Biden after Ohio Republicans balked at passing pro forma legislation that would allow Biden to be on the ballot even though the convention falls after a state deadline. But while Republicans passed a law to shift the deadline, Democrats decided to move forward with a virtual nomination nonetheless. Could Democrats replace Biden against his will? There's no evidence the party would entertain a change without Biden's consent. But even if he did, there's no mechanism for it to replace a candidate before the convention, and certainly no way for it to anoint a chosen successor. Large swaths of the Democratic Party lost faith in Biden. Delegates to the national convention could theoretically defect en masse. Of course, they were chosen to be delegates because of their loyalty to Biden and have pledged to support him at the convention. But unlike many Republican delegates, Democratic delegates aren't technically bound to their candidate. DNC rules allow delegates in all good conscience to reflect the sentiments of those who elected them, providing some wiggle room. The party's charter does include provisions to replace the nominee in the event of a vacancy. The measure is intended to be used in case of death, resignation, or incapacitation. So it's got to be one of those things, or else Potato Joe will be there in November. Not to replace someone who has no desire to step down. That was the measure that Donna Brazile, then the interim DNC chair, considered invoking after Hillary collapsed 2 months before the 2016 election. She wrote in her memoir, "I'm convinced that that version of Hillary, whatever that one, died." I did a show with Randy Moggins and Emily, and it was the first show that I did with them. It was a really, really good show, and it was a funny show because I remember I was supposed to be on with them, and they were doing video, right? But I forgot. I was supposed to be on the show, and I was riding. It was on Saturday night, and I was riding my bike around East Austin. That was like that was a time where I used to enjoy riding my bike at night around Boston. And I get this call from Emily. "Robert, are you ready for the show?" Oh shit, we have a show tonight, right? Right, she starts laughing. I said, yeah. Yeah, I'm out on my bike right now. Can I just dial in and talk to my phone? And so she talked to Randy, and it was fine. So I found this kind of quiet part of this brewery in Austin, and they're known for these bitter beers, bitter brews, whatever. So I sat at this table on the outside, and I had headphones and a mic, and I had this old Kyocera, like a construction site phone, but it could do things, right? So it had a camera and I could stream things, whatever. So I get on there, and we had this epic show, totally epic show, and I think that was on the 10th of September in 2016. God, such a long time ago. And I said on that show, you could go back and listen to that show. I said I wouldn't be surprised if Hillary dies tomorrow, because it was the 9/11 memorial thing, right? And 9/11 is the same day that they went in and basically killed Gaddafi, right? That was a 9/11 day, which is kind of chilling in its own way. So I said that, and then I that was the first prediction that I made that Trump was going to win the election, and I said when Trump's president, and Randy caught it, and he said, "You just said when Trump's president. Are you predicting he's going to win?" I said, "Yeah, he's going to win. Trump's going to win. He's going to be the president." Right? And it was the first time I made a public statement that Trump was going to win. But I said I wouldn't be surprised if Hillary died. And damn it, she didn't just she took a dirt nap, man. Right? Like, it was just so weird. That's when she had that guy that was around her with the EpiPen. Like, that was such a weird fucking time. It was just a weird ass time. And then she comes out of Chelsea's apartment, and there's no Secret Service, and it doesn't even look like her. Right? The whole thing was just so bizarre. Anyway, here we go. In her memoir released a year later, Brazile wrote that she was worried not just about Hillary's health, but about her anemic campaign, so lacking in the spirit of fight. Perhaps changing the candidate was a chance to win this thing, to change the playing field in a way that would send Donald Trump scrambling and unable to catch up, she wrote, adding that aides to other would-be candidates contacted her, including then Vice President Biden's chief of staff. That was wrong claim. But after less than 24 hours of consideration, Brazil realized the idea was untenable without Clinton's cooperation and likely to only divide her party further. I could not make good on my threat to replace her, she wrote. Current DNC chair Jamie Harrison is a longtime Biden ally who serves essentially at the pleasure of the president. And the National Party has certainly given no indication it's anything but fully behind his reelection. What happens if Biden withdraws after the convention? To fill a vacancy on the national ticket, the chair could call a special meeting of the full DNC, which includes 500 members. On paper, at least all it takes is a majority vote of those present to pick a new presidential and vice presidential nominees. But that process would most likely be anything but smooth and filled with behind the scenes jockeying and public pressure campaigns. If a vacancy were to occur close to the November election, however, it could raise constitutional, legal, and practical concerns. Among other issues, ballots would have to be printed well in advance of the election, and it might not be possible to change them in time. Would Kamala Harris replace Biden? If Biden were to relinquish the presidency, Vice President Kamala Harris would automatically become president, but not the Democratic Party's nominee, nor would she necessarily be the nominee if Biden withdrew from his election bid while he remained in the White House. She might be politically favored, but party rule gives the vice president no major mechanical benefit over other candidates. Biden's delegates wouldn't automatically transfer to Harris, and the convention holds separate votes on nominees for president and vice president, so she would still need to win a majority of delegates at the convention. If the top of the ticket were vacated after the convention, she would still need to win a majority of votes at the special meeting of the DNC. That is all, at least under current party rules. But a vacancy at the top of the ticket is the kind of dramatic moment that might lead party leaders to revisit them in the name of easing the transition. Harris has some close allies in key places at the DNC, including a co-chair of the party's Rules and Bylaws Committee. But nothing would likely be likely to happen without a fight. So apparently, there's also some kind of stipulation that says that two people on the same ticket cannot be from the same state. So that would technically rule out Gavin Newsom, since Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris are from the same state. I believe Kamala Harris's husband, what's his name, Doug Emmer, I believe he lives in Southern California. And that would be Kamala Harris's main residence, right? So that would make her a resident of California. And of course, Gavin Newsom is a resident of California. So that can't happen. They can't run the same ticket. They have an issue, right? So they have a real issue. And one of the issues, the biggest issue, first of all, is Joe. The second is Kamala. Because they theoretically, they can't leapfrog her, right? They can't leapfrog her. Because there were probably political promises that were made. That's number one. And number two, Kamala Harris represents a voting bloc inside of the Biden administration. And she represents Black liberal women who are quite powerful inside the Democratic National Party. And if they were to somehow basically leapfrog her with another person who did not represent the same demographic, I think that the party would implode. And everybody who has any political sense understands this. So they have a problem with Kamala. And they should have thought this through better. But again, there were probably promises that were made. And, you know, she has very close ties to the Obamas and whatever, right? Even though her campaign in 2020 was a joke. She came out all, hot shit, Miss Debater, Miss Tough Ass Senator, and then Tulsi Gabbard just shivved her. She wasn't the same after. That was it. Her campaign was done. She had 1% of the vote. 1% of the vote. It might even have been 0.1% of the vote. That's how low it was. And she's incredibly unlikable. So it was just stupid. Stupid hubris on their part to bring her along. Right? Just check the DEI box. They could have had what's her name? Susan Rice. Susan Rice probably would have been better vice president. Right? She would have been right now. Although I think Susan Rice was born in Iran. It was either her or Val Jarrett. And I know that there's where's she born? She's born in DC. So it's Val Jarrett that I think was born in Iran. Let me just clarify that. Val Jarrett, Shiraz, Iran. There you go. Susan Rice would have been a better pick. Way better pick. You snooze on Suze, you lose. All right. So what do I think is going to happen? I think Obama rides a ticket out. He's going to ride this out. He's going to do the second debate. He's going to ride this out. Right. And if he makes it to the convention in August, not that far away, right? We're just entering July. He makes it to that convention, his delegates will be loyal to him. Now, the only thing that could get in the way of that is if he has a seizure, becomes incapacitated, then it's a different story. If none of those things happen, he will be on the ticket. I guarantee you, he'll be on the ticket. And then, of course, you're going to have Trump on the other side. So the reason I think that this is going to be the plan, whether all these other candidates potentially and their supporters like it or not, is that they believe they have the votes. They believe they have the votes. Whether it's Dominion or whether it's 7 million migrants, whatever, right? They don't give a shit. Go out and try and find a Biden-Harris sign. There are a few, but not many, right? There's no campaigning whatsoever. Like, they don't care. They don't care. So what happens if he just continues to have this phenomenally bad showing, right, in front of everybody? And Trump is Trump, and he keeps, doing his Trump thing, and he has much bigger rallies and breaks out the YMCA again. It's it's the Trump gay disco all over again. What happens? And Biden wins. There will be holy hell. There will be look. The goal here with this election is to create chaos. That is the goal. They want chaos. They don't want a winner, or if they have a winner, the people who are on the other side, the losing ticket, will look at who won and they'll cry bloody murder, right? Like, so if Biden continues to veg out all the way through November and wins the election, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think people are just going to say, oh, hey, gee, he ran a great election. We're looking forward to another 4 more years of that. You got to be kidding me, right? People are at the breaking point. So I could easily see people just snap, right? And we will have chaos unlike anything you've ever seen, right? What happens if Trump wins? Do you think the other side is just going to play nice? Right? Do you think it's going to play nice? No, I don't think so. Right? They'll get on the phone and dial 1-800 Antifa and 1-800 BLM, right? And then we'll have that side of it. So I feel like what's going to happen is we will have a contested election. If you go back to 2000, which is the last time Jupiter was in Gemini, that's when we had a contested election with Gore and Bush Jr. And Jupiter is retrograde on election day, and Jupiter rules law, right? It rules law. It's in its detriment in Gemini, and it's retrograde, and it's on Trump's son Uranus. Holy shit, right? I mean, this is gonna be a fucking spectacle, right? It is going to be a spectacle. So my advice to you is to get your normie shit in now while you can. Get your normie shit in now while you can. What does that mean? Go on a vacation. Right? Go on a vacation. If there's something that you need or want to buy that's within your buying power, go get it. Right? Get your normie shit in, because after November, all the normie shit is out the window. Now, ultimately, will it be bad? No, I don't think so. I don't think it'll be bad, ultimately. But that period of time will be chaotic. Not only that with the Jupiter retrograde, but I believe right around Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken, Mercury, which is in its detriment in Sagittarius, is retrograde opposite Jupiter, which is in its detriment in Gemini. So if they're sorting things out post-election, now you've got Mercury retrograde in the mix, right? And it's in Sag, and it's retrograde, and it's opposite Jupiter, both in detriment retrograde. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. At the very least, there should be some moments of dark humor during that time. So, look, I hope things go smoothly. I hope they go smoothly, and you know, I'm not the biggest Trump guy, right? Like when I look at Trump and I look at Thomas Massie, it's like which one is not like the other, right? So, but if that saying, I'd rather have Trump as president over Biden. I I think most of us would agree with that, right? Even if Trump, might be the Antichrist in disguise, I think we'd all kind of agree that we'd rather have him than Biden. But Trump's got some baggage, right? He's got a lot of baggage, and a lot of that baggage is with Israel and Miriam Adelson and all these donors, right? Trump takes money from all these donors, and if you go back and he was in this tech podcast this last week, like Tech Bros or something. I don't know what the fuck it's called, but it's all these. They're not even like tech geeks, right? These are guys who are the CEOs of multi-million billion dollar tech companies, and they have this podcast that they do. And they brought Trump on, and they asked him about the H1N1 visas, right? And how they need more of them so they can get the best and brightest to help run their companies and have America maintain its cutting edge. And Trump comes out and says, I'll do one better. I'm going to offer a green card to anybody from another country who comes here and goes to college and graduates. And that includes a junior college. Like, what the fuck? You're going to give a green card to somebody who goes to a junior college? Like, that's some kind of fucking accomplishment? Like, that's not who those guys want. they don't want junior college guy, right? They want, Amal Singh, from, I don't know, Bangladesh or Pakistan, right? Who can code and do all this shit at half the price an American worker. That's who they want. They don't want junior college guy. But and he just went right into it, right? Like, you know, bend over. Here's the soap. I so again, I've watched a lot of Nixon. And I thought to myself, how would Nixon answer this question? Here's how Nixon would answer the question. You said, well, first and foremost, we all know and understand the importance of American business and the American economy, and how, as the great country of the United States, we need to be leaders in that sector in the world. We all understand how important this is. And I will definitely take this into consideration when I'm elected. And I promise you, I will make the best decision for the American people based on the information at hand. That's what he would say. He would say that, right? He wouldn't say, no, I wouldn't do it. But he would say, hey, look, the most important thing about the whole thing is America, okay? Like, Nixon was always on the record about America. You want to talk about America first? It was Nixon, right? Nixon. He's not perfect, but he was clear on that. And that's what Trump should have said. He said, hey, listen, I will definitely take that into consideration when I'm in office. I'll definitely take it into consideration. I'll talk with my people. And if it's in the best interest of the American people, I promise you, I will work with you hand in glove. Right? That's all he had to say. Instead, look, you go to junior college and you get a degree in phys ed, and I'll give you a green card. Jesus, I mean, is it? All right, let's talk about Trump from the debate last night. I thought for the most part at the beginning, like I talked about his script yesterday during the Astro Weather. I talked about his script, and I said he's just got to do this. Don't say a lot. Don't overtalk. Right? Talk to the people. Talk to the people. Stay calm. Stay on point. Right? And I would say for the first 10 to 15 minutes, it was like he'd listened to my show yesterday, and then he lost the plot. He lost the plot, and I didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they were bickering about each other's golf score. I was flabbergasted, and Trump was fucking serious. Like, I'll show you. Let's get you out of the green. When was the last time Joe Biden played any kind of golf? It was at the easiest fucking putt course. You ever you're like somewhere like in a rural part of rural America, right? And you run across like a trailer park, a recreational trailer park, and they may have a pool, and they may have a few other things, and they'll have like a little mini 8-hole putt course. You know the ones I'm talking about? Like nothing like the windmill or the dragon's mouth or any of that shit, right? That's Joe Biden's level of golf. That course right there. He might break par. He might get under par at a course like that. To suggest that guy last night could take out a driver and wham something 300 yards, you got to be fucking kidding me. It's like eight holes of putt and an ice cream. That's it. But they get into this pissing match about their golf score. And yeah, it's funny and it's hilarious, right? That's a Saturday Night Live sketch. But it's fucking embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. Like, grow the fuck up. both of you grow up, like have, be serious people. Have a real discussion. Jesus. I'm surprised they didn't start talking about their dicks. Oh, my dick is bigger than yours. Well, we can prove that. And he started talking about his weight, right? Like I guess, what are you, 6'5", 235 pounds? Like Biden, I mean, it was fucking funny at points, right? Okay. There are times when I've run across people who are certifiably insane and I can't stop laughing. It's a character flaw in me. I'm sorry. But when I see somebody who's certifiably insane and they do certifiably insane shit, it makes me laugh. And I'm kind of embarrassed about it, right? And but Biden had gotten there last night. And I was trying to keep it together last night. But he got there. He fucking got there. And the thing about the machines, like when they were talking about the fentanyl, like, what the fuck? We need the machines. We need the machines. Somebody is gonna do like some kind of a meme track with "We need the machines." Like if somebody doesn't do a meme track with "We need the machines" in the next 24 hours, they're missing out on a huge opportunity. It's like, what fucking machines are you talking about? Like what machines? Like what machines is he even talking about? Kidney dialysis machines? Med beds? Like what is he talking about? He said these 4 times. And then Trump couldn't even answer a question about childcare. Like he couldn't even answer a question about childcare. He's dancing all over the place. He's going back and attacking Jonah. I'm just like, Dana Bash gave him the easiest fucking slam dunk question with that. He could have said, Dana, here's how I feel about childcare. I'd really like to explore giving stay-at-home moms tax credits. And I don't care if they're single moms or they're moms with a family. I'd like to explore that and giving them significant tax credits because I think that the child is better off in the home with their mother or their family than having surrogate childcare. Boom. And if she followed up and said, well, President Trump, not all Americans, and he could just say, Dana, you have my word that if I'm going to create an affordable tax credit, I will make it worth their while. You'll just have to trust me on this as your president. Right? And then what did she do after that? That's all he had to do. That's all he had to do. Like, and how many single moms would go, well, shit, I'd like that. Maybe I could still do a side hustle or something to make some money, which they could probably. Or, what about, a mother in a nuclear family? Thank God. We won't have to pay as much taxes. And I can stay home. By the way, I'm not a huge tax guy. I'm just telling you, given the lay of the land, right? That was a slam dunk. Easy fucking slam dunk. Neither of them could answer the question about fentanyl. Neither of them. Biden's off in the machine world, and I don't know what Trump talked about the border. He tried to bring it back to Biden and the border. And again, he could have used that question in a very different way. He could say, Dana or whatever, I'm very troubled about fentanyl in this country. I've traveled across this country many times. I've been in major cities and minor cities, and one of the themes that seems to be consistent is homelessness and people who are hooked on very dangerous drugs, fentanyl being one of them. And I think it's a very serious issue. And I think what we have to do is we have to cut it off at the pass, and we have to find out where it's coming from and stop it. and I will commit to that. Boom, done. Right, done. What would you do about the people who are currently, suffering from fentanyl abuse? Well, I would do everything in my power to make treatment and recovery available to those people. We have plenty of money in this country to take care of our own. Maybe what I do is send less to Ukraine and set some aside for our poor fentanyl users in this country. There's so many ways that he could have like sliced that thing up. I think he went on attack with Biden for too long. Trump always plays defense. I don't know why. Like when he was in the 2016, okay, so we talked about this yesterday, right? So in the 2016 election, Trump could play offense because he didn't have as much baggage as he does now. So if you look at the 2016 election, he had Trump University, and this is before the round by the pussy moment. Okay, so take that out of the equation. He had Trump University. He had his bankruptcies. And he did not rent to blacks in the early 60s or whatever with his father in the New York real estate market. And by the way, probably every other apartment owner or landlord or whatever was doing the same thing. I'm not excusing it, right? I'm not excusing it, but he's probably doing the same thing everybody else was. So he had those were the things that he kind of carried. That was kind of his baggage, right? It was Trump University. It was the not renting to blacks, so he's racist. And then there was the bankruptcies and the failed casinos. That was it. Like you could address some of that stuff. Bankruptcy, you're in business, it happens. Boom. Right? Trump University, hey, we did the best we could. If I had to do all over again, it's not a model that I would embrace. I think we helped some people who had done some things better. Absolutely. Absolutely. And move on from it, right? Like he just, boom, done. Now he's got so much baggage that he's accumulated that he's always playing defense. Well, there is this and that in Charlottesville, January 6th, and convicted felon, and blah, 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 blah. Right. So he can't control the narrative. That's the problem. Right. He has so much scar tissue and baggage that he has to fight through that with like a machete just to get to the point where he can control the narrative. And he can't. So he's always playing defense. And you really can't win a war if you're always playing defense. You have to play offense. So everything, the back and forth with Biden, which was ridiculous, right? Like he's having to kind of defend himself so that, and Biden lied and he pointed it out and he's basically told them, yeah, he lied, right? Whatever. It's just not a winning strategy. Ultimately, it's not a winning strategy. But it was it funny? Yeah, it was comical. It was kind of hilarious. It was kind of sad. It was whatever, right? But it wasn't inspiring either way. I'm sorry, it wasn't. Um, there were two other things that if I was Trump, I would have done. After about the first 10 minutes, I would have said, Dana, the other guy's name, we need to have just a timeout here. Dana, Jake, we just need to have a timeout here. And I just turned to Joe Biden and say, Joe, I just have to say, I feel very sorry for you today. I feel very sorry. I feel like you're being taken advantage of. I feel like the people in your party are bringing you out here and they're attempting to show the rest of the world that you're incapable. And I think that that's cruel. And I think that you deserve better from your party. And I'm very sorry that we're having to do this today because you're just not competent. And I almost feel like you've got both hands tied behind your back. That's what I would do. I just would have said it. And I'd say, Joe, they should be ashamed of themselves. Like, every now and then, man, you got to punch a fucking hole in reality, right? But Trump almost feels incapable of doing something like that. Maybe it's his Mars and his ascendant, and maybe it's all the pent up, aggression that he has from whatever he went through for the last 4 years. But just that aside, and just recognizing that whatever that dude was or is was totally incompetent, and the people that brought him there should be fucking ashamed of themselves, and that Joe deserves better, and even the Democratic Party deserves better, or anybody deserves better than the Democratic Party, because this is just flat out pathetic. And you should say, I almost feel like walking off this stage. That's how bad this is right now. Like, wouldn't that be the most sane fucking thing to do? Because we're all thinking it. We're all having the same like, this is why the world has become what it's become. That it is the most cognitively dissonant moment I have ever seen in my life. This guy, whatever he is out there, and he is struggling, right? He's struggling. He's feeble. And nobody in that moment is even remotely responding to it in a way that they're conscious of. Now, they may all know it, right? And Trump's thinking, well, geez, man, I'm going to get some shots in tonight. This is going to be good, right? But that's one of the reasons why we're so fucked up in the world. We have these moments, and then everybody just acts like they never happened, or they didn't happen, or it's not happening. And then later on, we all talk about it like, oh, well, you see what happened? Oh, I thought he was just fine. Joe Biden, he answered all the questions. I mean, this is why we suffer from mass insanity. It's moments like last night. Like, what would have kept Jake Tepper and Dana Bash just to say, I can't be a part of this? I mean, I know why they can't do that, right? But why couldn't they do that? It seems to me that any reasonable human would make that value-based judgment. And as an American, right, I guess we're just going to let this play out. Try to pretend that it's not happening. Isn't that kind of the state of affairs? We're just going to keep going along and pretend that none of this shit is happening in the world. We're just going to go along and do our thing, and Israel's going to turn Gaza into dust, and right, and Thomas Massie's wife is going to die inexplicably while he brings out these really interesting measures to the house. Like, we're just going to act like it's just, it's just business as usual. That's how we got here. 9/11. 9/11. COVID. We still haven't even fucking woke up to COVID. Right? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. It's what I'm talking about. Like, there was so much insanity during COVID. People were insane. They were insane. They couldn't even admit to themselves that there was any other possibility than the one that was being drilled into their heads by somebody they work for, somebody they have to sleep with and eat with, and somebody on TV who was telling them to do that thing, right? Like, it was just insane. And it's still insane because nobody's talking about what happened on the back end of this. And we just had Bronny James just got drafted. He's gonna hopefully get to play with his dad. You know what? I hope he gets to play with his dad. I don't like his dad. I don't like him. I like Bronny James. He seems like a really nice kid, right? He seems like a nice kid, and he might have an opportunity to play basketball with his father. It's never been done before, right? But last year, Bronny James suffered myocarditis, and he played sparingly this year at USC. Sparingly. And a lot of people say we didn't get a lot of minutes. He couldn't break the starting lineup. There's a reason why. They did not want to risk him having another case of myocarditis. That's why he didn't play a lot. When he went to the Portsmouth pre-draft camp, and they had these scrimmage games, he didn't do a whole lot. And people would say, well, it wasn't like he was really good or really bad. It was like he just wasn't really there. I think he's conscious somewhere in the back of his brain that, his heart's not right. How did he get there? How did he get myocarditis at the age of 20? It's one of those things where, if I'm not mistaken, it's generally recognized fairly early on. And LeBron James has access to the best doctors in the world. Those kids get the best medical care in the world. So I would be hard pressed to think that somehow that condition just went right over the heads of all these doctors, right? And so it's also commensurate with a lot of other people who are suffering the same thing. And we're seeing all these things happen, right? All these things are happening, and people are trying to talk about it. We make jokes about it. There's another one that bit the dust, right? And it's like, it still is fucking insane. It's insane because we can't have a real dialogue about what happened and what went on. Just like we couldn't have a real dialogue about what was going on in Joe. One of those three people should have said, this is insane. But they didn't. It's like the fucking Truman Show, and it just keeps going on and on, and you wonder why people lose their marbles. No. My screen just went black. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Commercial break. Okay. We're back again. Gave me a moment to calm down. But you guys know what I'm saying, right? Like, do you understand what I'm talking about? Somebody on that stage last night should have just called timeout. And it probably should have been Trump. But he's just not wired that way. It's one of the reasons why we're up shit creek. All right, let's just talk about the end of the debate. Trump has 2 minutes to say anything he wants, right? Those are his 2 minutes. What does he do? He's still going after Biden. And it's like, okay, you've just spent the last hour and a half dancing on this guy's grave, okay? Why don't you do something different? take those 2 minutes and look in the camera, right? Look in the camera and address the American people and say something to the effect that if I get your vote in November, I promise each and every one of you, each and every American, I don't care what color you are, I don't care what your religion is, I don't care what your sexual orientation or your gender is. I promise each and every one of you I will represent you. And I promise each and every one of you that my goal as president is to return this country to a state where people can afford to buy a home. It's a small goal, but it's a big goal of mine. I want everybody in this country to experience home ownership. And you have my word that I come from a real estate background. I'm a builder. My goal is for everybody in this country to own their own home. And that is going to be at the top of my list as president. That is my promise to you. There's a lot of young people out there who can't afford to buy a home. That's going to end when I'm president. We're going to work with the banks. We're going to work with the lenders. We'll do whatever we can to make that happen. Boom. Right? Boom. He covers that. He could have a couple of other high ticket items. Right? As president, I promise you, I will extract us from any foreign involvement regarding war. I promise you that. Whether it's Ukraine or Israel or any other country, if I'm president, I will focus on the American people. Boom. End of story. I'll support our allies to the best of our ability, but we have business to take care of here. And then, he could end on the migrant thing, right? And there's been a lot of people that have come into this country, and some of them shouldn't be here. And there may be some people who, for lack of a better word, need a better life. And I'll be straight up with you. I'm not opposed to some of those people being here. But we're going to have to sort out who those people are. And if they commit a crime, or they have a criminal past, or they're not gainfully employed, they'll be gone. Because I only want people here that are contribute to the country. Right? Boom. End of story. Right? He could do those things, right? And lastly, you got to have a dream, and you got to have a goal, right? You got to have a dream, and you got to have a goal, and he'd have to end on something really aspirational, right? That's what a president does. Nixon said this. Nixon said every president needs to have a grand vision or a significant goal that people can rally behind. Right? He was clear on this. Trump got it in 2016 because he had Roger Stone around. Roger Stone worked for Nixon, and that's where Trump got Make America Great Again. That was his vision, right? And that was 2016. And here we are 8 years removed. So he has to have kind of a reboot of that without it being the same thing, right? He's got to have a reboot, but it can't. I don't know if it can be MAGA. It has to be something different, but something is equally inspiring. So he's got one more debate to prove it. Let's see what he can do. That's it. That's about all I have to add on about the. I think really the takeaway, the final takeaway, is that it is that debate is the ultimate symbol of our collective insanity. That's what it was. And that nobody at the time had the presence, the temerity, self-respect, or character to even mention it in real time. That's the problem, right? That's the problem, and that's the uh, that's the metaphor. That's the metaphor for how we got here. All right, where are we? All right, let's see some comments here. The need for a better life at the expense of others. It has to make sense. It is just a takedown of America. Period. It is a collapse. Well, I agree with you. Right. This is what's happened with DEI and all the ESG stuff. Right. It's like we'll elevate one group at the expense of another, and you say, well, that other group, well, they had their time. They had a good run. Right. And it's like, no, all boats rise. All boats rise. And nobody has ever done anything important to something that was just given to them. Nobody. If you've had to work or fight or sweat for something meaningful, you will take care of it. You'll honor it. That's what you'll do. Just getting a gig because you fill out a chit, on some corporate form that allows them to keep their ESG score up doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Let's see. Who else do we have here? No politician worldwide can make legitimate promises. Is out of their control, not in their power. Everywhere experience the same exact issues, all by design. I agree with you, Leonie. And if you can keep those promises within the realm of possibility, I think that they owe it to the people to do that, right? Because I do believe that with the right intention, in the right spirit, in the right commitment, that some of these things can manifest. And what we need more people to believe in that. Over the course of my life, I was born cynical, but over the course of my life, I've really had to battle with cynicism. And doing these shows and doing these podcasts has helped me a lot with that. And while I wouldn't call myself Norman Vincent Peale, my attitude and my faith has gotten much better over the years. So what we need people who are not demoralized, who are not broken down, who have the ability to remain strong, to have faith, to have courage, to express love, to demonstrate character and commitment, and to not give up, right? We need more people in general like that. Because if there's more of us like that, then the leaders who are supposed to lead us will ultimately come from the people who are expressing these things. So it's really up to us, right? We have to hold the line. We need Trump 2016, but he's gone. Well, Tondar, this is what I was saying, right? I think Trump in the last 2 minutes should have had something aspirational. I agree, right? I agree with you. Like he could have etched out something aspirational, and because look, I've seen Trump when he's positive. Like one of his teachers was Norman Vincent Peale, the power of positive thinking. He married him and Ivana, right? Uh, he could have done it. So it's up to us, right? Like we have to do it. We have to hold the line. After what they did to Trump, do you blame him? Um, I don't. Here's what I'm going to say about that. Um, I don't I don't blame Trump for feeling vindictive. I will say that Trump had a hand in some of the things that happened to him while he was in office. Not all of it, but some of it. Right. The biggest thing I think that was the most problematic was the whole Russia Gate thing. Right. Like that bogged him down from the jump. That was problematic. Um, but I do think that in spite of everything that happened to him, that I feel this is how I feel, and you may not agree with me, but I feel that he needs to rise above it. Right? He needs to rise above it. He has to be like you know, more Marcus Aurelius. Right? Like I Trump has got to like practice a little stoicism and rise above it. Sure, I'd be pissed all the but look, it's not as if he didn't have a hand in some of this. He's not solely without blame. And I haven't even talked about warp speed. We're not going to go there. So Lynn, I do think that he has. I think it would be better if he raises vibration on it, for lack of a better term, right? Raises vibration on it. But I'm not sure he can. I mean, astrologically, he's got Mars and Leo in the first house on his ascendant. Maybe that's just the way it is. Let's see. Who else do we have here? He could have been elegant and shows patriotism to America. Catherine, I agree with you. He had 2 minutes at the end, right? 2 minutes at the end where he could have looked people in the camera and he could have just said, you know, I miss being in the White House. I miss being able to assist you, the people of America, and that I love you, right? I love this country. I love all of you. And if you give me my vote, if you give me the vote in this upcoming election, I promise I will not let you down. I've learned so much in the last 4 years, and I'm prepared to be the president that you need me to be in 2020, 2024. Right? Like it could be that easy, and you don't have to promise anything. So I'm with you. I'm with you, Catherine. I watch a rally. He's energized. We're going to keep it low key and professional. I've seen the rallies, and I don't disagree with you at all. Right? Um, but I think that those last 2 minutes were a lost opportunity. I think they were a lost opportunity. That's just me. He'll have another shot, I guess, in the next election. And I also feel like he probably could have just called Joe Biden out and just said, "I feel sorry for you, and I feel sorry. I feel sorry for you and your wife, and I feel sorry for the American people that they would do this to you." I don't think that that's being dictatorial. He's learned how truly corrupt our government is. I'm nowhere near Washington, D.C., and I could have told you how corrupt our government is 10 years ago. Not convinced voting is real. That's a whole other thing, right? That's a whole other sideshow here, which we talked about. What happens? What happens when the theoretical votes start getting counted? Look, every election, with the exception of Bill Clinton's first election, second election, and Obama, have all been questionable. The first Obama election, slam dunk, easy. The first Clinton election, easy, right? And maybe the second one was easy as well. But other than that, everything else has been in question completely, even on state levels. If voting was real, they wouldn't let us do it. There's some logic to that, no doubt. There's some absolute logic to that. The corruption in this country runs straight down Main Street in any town in America. That's true. And you know what? Here, so let me give you a little side story on that. And this actually has to do with not just Main Street America, but the federal government. Okay, when I was living in Fredericksburg, I was politically active, and I used to go to all the city council meetings, and and we took on the mayor and the city council, and most of them were fucking clueless. So they got this American Rescue Plan money, and this is the money that the Biden administration supposedly gave all of these counties, towns, so that they could make improvements to their Wi-Fi, bandwidth, infrastructure, all that shit, right? Nothing has happened. So these cities, Fredericksburg is one of them, have taken this money, this American Rescue Plan money, and this is what they did. I'll never forget this. It wasn't just for internet, high-speed internet. They wanted to give the money to local groups and charities. And I'm like, you're taking fucking federal money, and you're going to be beholden to them. If you read the contracts, which we did, right, you are on the hook. You were on the hook. And you basically became the federal government's bitch if you took this money, right? Especially if you missed a payment. And so what they did, this is so bizarre, man. Before they voted for this bill to accept the money, they had all these local charities come up and make a case for the money that they could use, right? So we had to sit there and watch these charities, and some of which I guess were reasonable, whatever, right? And they had to come up there and make a case for all their charities, and then how much they needed. And then the city council not only voted for every single charity, but in almost every single case awarded them more than what they asked for, just to piss us off and flip their middle finger at you, right? But today, I don't think they've done anything with their American Rescue Plan money. So to your point, James, I just gave you an example of what you're talking about. Consider how the White House, its shape, and how it's built, represents the head of a body nation, what the intentional use of a dementia patient as its leader does to the psyche of a nation. That's a brilliant point and a great symbol. Okay. One or two more. I honestly feel we're watching a galactic feud played out on Earth. Much bigger picture than people realize. So this goes back to uh, the days of Atlantis, where you had the law of one and the sons of Belial, and theoretically they have been in conflict for eons. And the sons of Belial believe that humans cannot manage themselves and that they must be micromanaged like animals in a zoo. And the law of one believe that humans can manage themselves, can take care of themselves, and deserve the opportunity to do that. Right. So, to your point, there would be a group of two factions that have been fighting this out for a while, and the meat suits are in the middle. There you go. All right. I think I'm out of here. You guys are great. Um, before I get out of here, let me just remind everybody that Darlena is uh, doing her 7-week astrological human design course, and I think she's close to 10 people. She's got room for 30, so she's about a third of the way there. And what you're going to do is you're going to connect into the linkage between astrology and human design. You'll go through kind of a level one breakdown and experience, and you'll get 2 personalized readings with Darlena. You'll get an incarnation of the cross reading, and you will get your own body graph reading level 1. So those 2 things alone are worth the price of admission. And then you're going to get 7 weeks worth of instruction, meaning videos coming to you. You're going to watch that video, and a week later, you, Darlena, and the other students are going to meet and talk and go over the material. So I'm going to put Darlena's website in the chat, and she's offering a $200 discount to all you Chattarians. So when you check out, if you decide to take the course, which starts on the 7th of July, just type in Chattaria when you check out. You'll get a $200 discount. The other thing is I'm going to have, by the end of this weekend, I will have everything about the event in October up on my website. You can also start to sign up for that. That'll be ready by the end of the weekend. And then lastly, if you're in the Kerrville area on the Saturday after the 4th of July, we're going to be having a little barbecue out here in Kerrville, and a lot of the local Chattaria people show up from the surrounding area. And if you happen to be in the area, you're welcome to come here, hang out, meet people. This will be the Saturday after 4th of July, and it starts at 2 p.m. And we'll be back on Sunday night. Okay? That's it. We're here. We're good. Love y'all. Treat each other well. You have everything inside that you need. Take care. Bye for now.